Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to a Monday edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Boy, we've got some sad news to talk about today. An unexpected retirement of Pro Bowl left guard Ali Marpet after 7 awesome years in Tampa Bay has sent some shockwaves through the Bucs fan base, through the media that covers this team, and also kind of through the front office and coaching staff as well, although they were given a heads up by Marpet that he was contemplating retirement this offseason. So wasn't a complete shock to the Buccaneers themselves yesterday, but it was to myself and to Pewter Report's J.C. Allen, who's joining me today on the Pewter Report podcast to talk about this move and what it means, how Ali Marpet's retirement could change everything in Tampa Bay this offseason. JC, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, but yeah, you want to talk about shocked. My daughter turned 4 on Monday, so this weekend we took her to Weeki Springs. She loves mermaids, so we're in the middle of this mermaid show, and all of a sudden the texts just blow up, and they're doing this rendition of the Little Mermaid, and all of a sudden I'm tweeting, I'm looking at Ursula comes out of nowhere and scares the crap out of me. I almost dropped my phone, and I'm like, to make matters worse. But I mean, yeah, talk about blindsided. You're already having to potentially replace 2 of your interior offensive linemen in Jensen and Cappa, and now to have this bomb drop. And I mean, very happy for Marpet. He's had a great, run with the Buccaneers. Very underrated player. Finally got his due, got a ring. So, I get it. Growing concerns of CTE, and he's banging helmets in the trenches.
He is every down.
And he's had some injuries. He's had some concussion injuries the past 2 years as well. So, I don't blame him. I'm not upset at him. Talk about a blow. You got, Brady. You've got Marpet now. You might have Gronkowski, probably. You might have Sue, probably. And then Carmen, as Joey just mentioned, Carmen leaves the Bucs organization too. So when it rains, it pours on you. And Marpet's the latest one to make you open an umbrella.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a shocking offseason to the Buccaneers and their fan base so far, right? It has not been filled with good news at all, right? So hopefully free agency can start, followed by the draft, and some good news can start pouring in, because right now it's not been a bunch of good news, right? And I think it's safe to say that Super Bowl window opened and closed pretty quickly. The good news for the Buccaneers is they did get a Super Bowl ring. Sometimes you got to kind of shoot your shot and make sure it counts. I remember back in 2002, JC, 2001, when the Glazers were contemplating firing Tony Dungy and replacing him with Bill Parcells. Oh. And Bill Parcells sent his cap guy from the Jets, Mike Tannenbaum, down to Tampa Bay to look at the salary cap. This is before everything was all digitized and you had the internet, humming, and you could access this stuff. So I guess he went down and looked at some of the contracts.
Literally.
Yeah. Looked at some of the contracts and went to Parcells and said, listen, the Super Bowl window in Tampa Bay right now with some of these contracts, because the Buccaneers had a ton of players. I mean, Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, John Lynch, Rondé Barber, Mike Allstott, Simeon Rice, Brad Johnson, are all of these guys in their prime and being well paid. And he looked at Parcells and he's like, you better win a Super Bowl your first year, because it's going to be closed by 2003. Like that's how short the window was. Because really it had opened, in 1998, kind of the Bucs kind of came on the scene, won that playoff game in 97. And so out of that playoff stretch, really from, if you want to say 97, fine, 97 through 2003 was their window. They won 1 Super Bowl, and it happened to be John Gruden's first year in Tampa in 2002. So Mike Tannenbaum was right. He's like, you basically better win right now, because the window is going to open and close. And I think that with some of these contracts and bringing Brady to Tampa Bay and only having him, at age 42 when he came in, and getting Rob Gronkowski out of retirement, and Ndamukong Suh, in his 30s, it was a quick window, but they got the Super Bowl, and a lot of teams don't get it. Their windows open and closed, and they just don't get a ring. So thankfully the Buccaneers did.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you look at this Buccaneers team before Brady came in, they're in a really good position pretty much cap-wise.
Yeah.
They didn't have any future contracts kicked down the can, kicked down the line. And, you see that now. I see fans everywhere. Oh, we sold our soul. We saints ourselves for the opportunity.
That's what you do. That's what it's all about. You got it.
And it paid off. And you
Yeah.
won that Super Bowl. And then, you're potentially a all out blitz,
Right.
away from maybe going back to another one. So at that point, it becomes worth it. Now, obviously, they're dealing with some ramifications now. You have Brady's contract, which we've got some good news on. It appears that's going to kind of equal out that prorated bonus he was supposed to get, and the money he was supposed to pay back. It's going to be a wash. So it looks like it's only going to cost the Bucs $8 million on the cap this year, $9 million next year, and they'll be done with that contract, which is a far cry from $32 million in one season. So
no doubt.
It's big there, but now you're going to have, Ali Marpet's prorated once he's placed on retirement, come back, but it still opens up a little bit cap space. This team, I think, is still in a position, wouldn't say Super Bowl, but they're still in a very strong position to compete. And Scott, you mentioned it over and over again that this division, even with a guy like Blaine Gabbert, even with a guy like Kyle Trask, there's still potential to win this division and host a home playoff game. So I think you maybe see a trend of what happened in that 2001 era when Brad Johnson, great trick shot artist, great guy, but not an amazing quarterback by any means, but they have a really solid defense in place. And maybe that's the route you go, is to bolster this defense, add to this defense. It's going to be a little harder now because now you've got another guy on the offensive line to replace, and you've got to spend some money there as well.
Brad Spielberger, one of the friends of this show and of us here at Pewter Report, really a tremendous cap guy, and
help me out.
He said the other day on Twitter, on his Twitter account, I don't have it pulled up, but I'm going to paraphrase the word out of Indy, right? As teams start to roll in there this weekend to prepare for the Indianapolis Scouting Combine. John Ledyard and Matt Matera are going to be there representing Pewter Report tomorrow. They're going to have coverage tomorrow of Bruce Arians and Jason Light. Boy, they're going to have a lot of questions to answer. JC, a lot of questions. So they're going to have live reaction right after that, plus some stories live from Indy. So make sure that you stay tuned to our Pewter Report podcast tomorrow. I believe it's going to be 4 o'clock. Still going to be.
That's where we got the door number 2 answer last year, right? It was the Combine. So I mean,
3 years ago from Tom Brady.
Yeah,
about Tom Brady.
Yes. So maybe we'll get some good juicy nuggets from it. But I mean,
hope so.
You talk about some questions about the future, the certainty of this team, and you've been saying it all day in the chat and even in the description of the show, Scott, that it looks like it's going from a restock or to maybe
to use Bruce Arians' term, he said, we're going to reload. Well, I think it's more of a reboot. If you don't want to use the term rebuild, that's fine. It's a reboot. It's kind of kickstarting this thing over again. They still have a lot of pieces in place, JC. There's still 5 Pro Bowlers on this team still, and you've got some ascending young players as well. And I don't think this is going to impact Chris Godwin. He's going to be back. Carlton Davis, I expect, will get the franchise tag. He'll be back either that or with the contract extension. They're going to have some pieces to be formidable. But the thing is what Spielberger said on his Twitter account was the word he's getting from Indy. He's very plugged in to the agent community. And also some teams, is that none of these quarterbacks are going to be moving via trade, right? I mean, the Russell Wilson thing is not going to happen. He's going to stay in Seattle. There's no replacement there. They're certainly not going to trade him within the conference and help a conference team like the Buccaneers. Aaron Rodgers looks like it's either going to be staying with the Packers, retiring, maybe trade to Denver, but it would be that, right? Yeah. DeSean Watson, from what I heard and wrote about in my SR's Fab 5 column, that is still a legal mess, and I do not believe that they are going to be pursuing DeSean Watson. I'll just say that, unless something radically changes, and not even really from a legal standpoint, but I just don't see them ponying up the draft picks and getting a guy that has not just one incident, JC, but 22 incidents. This is a pattern. This is not a one-off thing that was poor judgment. This is disturbing.
Go to Vegas to like the kitty cat club or whatever it's called. You're doing a
Yeah,
massage
yeah,
therapist. What are you doing? And not only that, now like even to give up the draft capital, now you've got even
yeah.
yet another hole to fill.
Right,
So it's like
exactly.
you even afford it now at that
No,
point.
you really can't because and see that's kind of how again our today's topic on the show is how Marpet's retirement could change everything because now this is another big hole to fill. And JC, you mentioned it. We're looking at the center position, right? Everything the Peter Report has heard, and it may change a little bit with Marpet leaving. I don't think it will. Is that Ryan Jensen will want to cash in on free agency? The latest number that Pro Football Focus projects, and they're really good with their cap projections in terms of salaries, $13 million a year. He's making 10 right now. He's 31. He'll be 32 later this year, and I just don't see the Buccaneers ponying up that much money for a center. I think this maybe puts Alex Cappa back in play for the Buccaneers now that they have a little bit of room freed up with Marpet. But the thing is this is not a $10 million man. This is, Cappa is a good, solid guard, but I don't see the Pro Bowl potential. I'm not sure that the team does either. So you don't want to overpay just because you have a need doesn't mean you want to overpay for a position.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a world beater by any means. He has steadily shown improvement throughout his years.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's a heck of a player. I'm not trying to take
I agree.
anything away from Kappa. And I think, he's got this is the problem, too, right, with winning a Super Bowl is once you guys have these Super Bowls and Kappa's going into his first year, it's like the opposite end of the spectrum with Jensen and Kappa. Kappa's first time in a free agency, he can go out there and get paid. Jensen's last time probably in free agency, he can go out there and get paid. And you can't blame either of these guys if they go out there and get a big contract. But
especially Jensen, right? Because he just made his first Pro Bowl, won a Super Bowl the year prior. His stock's never going to be higher than it is right now. This is his last contract. He's got to cash in, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you can't be mad at either of these guys at all. But to expect the Bucs to go just because Marpet went in and retired. And it opens up a huge hole to go out and make drastic moves to make sure they can retain these guys and overpay either of them. I mean, if it's on the cards and, Kappa, from what I know and what I've seen, generally likes Tampa Bay, likes being here. And maybe he gives you one of those Tampa Bay
hometown discounts.
I mean, I know his agent's probably not going to push for that, but maybe he feels like, hey, I want to continue here. I got my guy Tristan on the right of me. I still got Donnie here, and maybe he wants to stay, and maybe he'll take about $1 million, $1.5 million less than what he can get out there. But if he doesn't, and if he's trying to cash in, and you can't blame him, then the Bucs have to seriously look at that situation and say, okay, can we replace this guy with a cheaper option and still achieve what we want to achieve? And you got to look into that factor too, even if it's a guy who might be older than him. I mean, Cap is only 27. If you can get a guy that's 30, I mean, guards usually play well until 35, 36, unless you're, an animal and can, play longer. But if you can get solid guard play at a much cheaper rate, then, it's one of those positions that are kind of looked at as you don't overpay for him. You don't spend the big bucks for him. And when you do, I mean, even Joe Tooney, who reset the market last year, he wasn't, by any means amazing and didn't even make All Pro team last year as the highest paid guard in the league. Yeah.
So is Marpet a Ring of Honor member? That's something to debate on. I don't know. I'm a little curious about that because really there is no criteria that the Glazers set forth, right? It's their decision. It's a unilateral decision. It's them. There's like I said, there's no criteria. To me, a player that's Ring of Honor worthy should impact the team winning because it's a team sport at the end of the day, right? You should be, I think, leaving your mark on the franchise, like in the record books. And that's really tough to do for offensive linemen, right? Because there's no stats outside of games started, like Iron Man type of awards. Outside of Pro Bowls,
sacks allowed, and who looks and me and you, and things like that.
I mean, and the thing is the Pro Football Focus tracks, some of that stuff. I think that the problem is though is sometimes we get a little we pick and choose when we like Pro Football Focus, right? I think that's all of us on the Good Report staff. We've been guilty of that. It's like, look at this PFF grade, look at this, and then it's like we watch a Bucs game and they come out with crap grades for a particular player or whatever. You're like, what are you thinking? This, they've been watching the game that we watch. Like, why are they knocking him for this or that? So I don't know, because while PFF is probably the better way to measure performance, it's very subjective still, right? It's almost like officiating crews, right? One officiating crew is going to call holding and pass interference more than another crew might let him play. So I don't know. Pro Bowls is not a great representation of that either, because the game itself is a joke and the honor has kind of been morphed into a bit of a joke. But it's like, is Marpet worthy? I'm not going to say he's not worthy, because obviously he was on back-to-back playoff teams, won a Super Bowl ring. Tony Mayberry is a 3-time Pro Bowl center for the Buccaneers in 97, 98, and 99. He was on 2 playoff teams in 97 and 99. Was the first offensive lineman to be recognized as a Pro Bowler in Buccaneer history. He's also, I think, probably the best interior offensive lineman in team history. I think Marpet's right there. I think Davin Joseph probably a little bit of a notch below. So I'm not opposed to putting Marpet in. Just put in Tony Mayberry first, because in his day, he was an absolute beast, handling the likes of Keith Millard and John Randall, Santana Dotson, and some of the better defensive tackles in the Bucs division. So I don't know. What do you think? Would you put Ali Marpet? I put other players in before him. I'll say that. Hardy Nickerson, Simeon Rice. There's players that deserve that way before Marpet, in my opinion.
I agree with you, and I think you brought up a good point. Like, what is his legacy on this organization? And I think one of the things that might work into his favor is he's one of the founders of the Buccaneers Social Injustice Program, and I think that has done some really great work. And I think, they set him and the players who started it, set that groundwork for future generations of Buccaneers players to go and bring forth. I think his personality, obviously maybe not with the media answer questions, but you've seen
he's a great guy. I loved Ali. Mark Cook loved Ali Marpet too. Those two had a great relationship together. And I believe Marpet was on the What's Cooking show with Mark Cook, I think twice. And that was fun and some good stuff. So I don't know. I don't want the Glaziers to turn the Bucs Ring of Honor into the Bucs Ring of Good, right? It should be great. It should be excellent. Like, I think the Pro Bowl's kind of gotten like, it's great players and also very good players. Like, no, let's just keep it great. Keep it excellent.
I think part of it too is because of Brady, there started to be more recognition. Yeah, it was Ali Marpet's first time making the Pro Bowl, but he also made second team All Pro this year and last year. I know there's no such thing as second team All Pro or whatever, but I mean, you look at that, he made both of those. So he started getting more recognition. And I think, and John's been, one of the biggest, supporters and shouters of this, is that if he continued to, he's one of the most underrated guards in the league, and
he should have made more Pro Bowls. I mean, I'll give him that for sure. He played at that high of a level.
I think that if he had those Pro Bowls, we might be talking a little bit more about this as a real possibility. But as of right now, love the player, love the guy, but I just don't think he's done enough. If he continued to play, maybe, but I don't.
Yeah. If he's 10 years with the Buccaneers, another playoff, another Pro Bowl or two, I think that certainly puts him more in the category for Bucs Ring of Honor. Right now, like I said, I'm not crossing him off the list. I'm just saying there's some people ahead of him on the list. And there will continue to be. Like, Mike Evans should go in before Ali Marpet. I think Ali Marpet might be a guy that, once you put some guys in and you're kind of running out of some guys, you want to put another guy in. Again, keep it the ring of honor, of excellence, rather than the very good. So I think Ali Marpet was a very good Buccaneer player, very good / great. But, I mean, he's not in the class of some of the Hall of Famers that this team has put in the Ring of Honor, so far. Speaking of, of great, I'm just going to say it right now. I had my Celsius today.
Yeah, me too.
And it was great, right? Because I needed it on a Monday, and I went for the orange today. Wife Ashley had the sparkling mango passion fruit. This is one of her favorite flavors. She also likes the watermelon too. Yes. And the great thing about it, JC, is I do these subscribe and saves on Amazon, right? And I go there. It literally takes about 30 seconds. If you have an Amazon account, type in Celsius. You'll see all the different flavors. They even have a variety packet. So if you're not sure which one you want to try, get the variety pack. It's Celsius. And
Sure.
with all the different flavors, right? It'll send you an assortment. I kind of rediscovered cola a couple weeks ago and pounded like 3 of those within a 2-week span and really enjoyed the mix up. The fruit flavors are fantastic. I've got some Fuji apple pear on the way. It's a tremendous drink. And what makes it tremendous, JC, is gives you all of the energy you need without the crash. And how do they do that? Because of no sugar and no preservatives, right? And so whether it is the orange or whether it is the new flavor, which is the sparkling mango passion fruit, John Ledger's personal favorite, make sure that you get some Celsius today. Click on those banners, Celsius banners on PeterReport.com. You can also go to Celsius, click on the store locator. And if you haven't heard by now, Celsius, well, they've also got an protein bar on the energy kick here because I've had my Celsius and that's kicked in. But when you're talking about protein, I'm getting back in the gym. I had one of these today. I had the white chocolate cookies and cream. Folks, it's as delicious as it looks. Okay. They taste like candy bars. I have personally had some awful tasting protein bars. They taste like sawdust. Not these guys. These are fantastic. They've got the salted caramel peanut crunch and the white chocolate cookies and cream. Right now, they're 20% off on Amazon. So while you're ordering your Celsius on Amazon, grab some fast protein bars. These protein bars are great snacks, great to grab and go, awesome for kids. Stuff them in their backpack, send them off to school. You can save 20% on Amazon by using the promo code 20HOLDFAST, and that's good through the end of March. So take advantage of that while you can. All right, JC. So let's talk about how Ali Marpet's retirement kind of changes the Buccaneers and what their approach is this offseason. Now, I had a question in the Peter Report group chat this morning. It's like, well, do you think that this really changes, like a guard retiring? Does that really change what the Buccaneers might be doing this entire offseason from their approach? The more I thought about it, the more I said yes. And I'll see if you agree with me here on this. First of all, it's another hole to fill, right? I mean, we talked about possibly Ndamukong Suh retiring. It looks and kind of sounds like that's going to happen. Same thing with Rob Gronkowski, or at least he's moving on. Maybe he wants to go play with Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Who knows? But I don't think he's coming back to Tampa, right? So there's 2 more retirements that could be coming down the pike. And then you've got, of course, Tom Brady. Then you might be losing Ryan Jensen. You might be losing Alex Cappa. I mean, that's a gut punch because that's your interior, right? That's your center, 2 guards, a quarterback, possibly your running back right behind the quarterback. If Leonard Fournette leaves, you can't overpay your running backs, right? So I think that first of all, you're losing a Pro Bowl player. It's another hole to fill. That's the second thing. It affects your draft plans because you very well might have to spend a draft pick on an interior offensive lineman when maybe that wasn't the case if you were to fill a spot in free agency and then maybe have one of, either Aaron Stinnie or Nick Leverett or, here's Stinnie, right? He filled in for Kappa during the Super Bowl run in 2020 and played in the Super Bowl game itself. You've got Leverett, who filled in during that Colts game, and I thought played much better as a guard than he did as a tackle in the preseason, right? You've got Robert Hainsey. He's maybe not ready to start at center. Maybe he is. Maybe he can move in and challenge for the guard position, right? So the Buccaneers have some options. John Molchan's another guy that's still on this roster developing. Sedarius Hutcherson. So they have enough guys, I think, to kind of make it a battle royale for one spot and maybe get a free agent center in there to compete with Hainsey. But now you're talking about another spot. And so I don't think that you can fill all these holes with free agency. You might have to turn to the draft, right? So I think, and plus there's the salary cap ramifications as well. There's a little bit of a cap hit. There'll be some savings that come with that, but there'll be some dead cap money for next year. So and not just that, I think that this is kind of the signal to the fans, to the team, and to the media that cover this team, that we're not in a reload situation. This is maybe not a rebuild from the bottom up, blow it up and rebuild it, but this is a reboot, is it not?
Yeah, For sure. I mean, especially after you mentioned Brad's, tweet the other day about quarterbacks not moving. Now it looks like, okay, you got Gabbert, you got Trask. Maybe you have a Teddy Bridgewater in this situation. I don't think a reunion with Jameis is happening. I think you're looking at bringing Blaine Gabbert back, who's a teacher who knows the system, knows the offense. We all know about the 8 coordinators, 8 offensive coaches, head coaches, and in the 8 seasons. He knows this system, and by anything less, he can really still impart that knowledge to a guy like Kyle Trask in that room. And if Kyle is ready at some point in the season, maybe you see what you have in him. But I think you're right. I think this is more about, okay, we can still make the playoffs. We can still win the division. That will be our goal. But as far as winning a Super Bowl and making some noise, unless we get hot and go on a run, it's probably not going to happen. So, you look at the interior offensive line, those 3 spots, and I think you hit the nail on the head. You've got, at the very least, you've got some very good depth pieces. Robert Hainsey, you drafted him as a right tackle, spent the season learning center, played a little, and learning the guard position as well because he's been a right tackle. So you've got some flexibility in that player. Obviously, we know the flexibility they have in Nick Leverett, who's an Earl Watford light, who, plays tackle, played center, played guard, and has stepped in at various positions throughout the season. So you have both of those guys ready and available there under contract who can come and compete for depth pieces. You also have a guy like Sedarius Hutchinson, who you drafted last season, looked like he could be a very quality depth guard in the league, ended up going on, getting hurt and going on injured reserve. And then you have John Molchen, who's been with the team for 2 years. Yeah. And I don't know where they think of him or, if he's just a practice squad player, but he's given a chance to compete. He's got that.
If you throw in Stinnie for a 1-year prove it deal, right?
Well, that's the thing about Stinnie. I think last year they paid him 1.25. Mm-hmm. I think this year, because of the, he's done it before, right? He's gone through 3 games. One was your starting guard in the Super Bowl. I think that number is going to jump up, and I don't think they'll be able to bring him back for any less than $2 million a year.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, he knows the system. He's a proven performer. He's not, he's not Cappa in terms of being that. He's certainly not Marpet, right? But he's better. He's got more experience than Leverett. He's got. Sedarius Hutchinson looked great in training camp as a run blocker. His pass protection needs some work, but the problem is he missed essentially a whole development year because he injured his knee. So, he was not around the team at all from an on-field standpoint outside of doing rehab. So he missed a lot of developmental stuff. So he's almost going to be a rookie starting over again. Molchen just keeps kind of hanging around. He's a practice squad guy. It's kind of like now or never for him. He's been here for 3 years or so.
This will be his 3rd season,
yeah. So
even with Leverett outplayed him and grew into that roster spot last season. So
yeah,
I mean, I know they still are high on him and his ability, but I mean, how high is that? Is that a practice squad guy for life, or is that a potential backup? Bottom of the roster, your last card on the roster. So
yep. And listen, Blaine Gabbert might be Josh McCown 2.0. He certainly might. Hope he wins more than the 2 games, because I think that's what Josh won. Maybe he won 1 out of that 2-14 season. It was horrible. Louis Smith's first year in 2014. That may be the case. But listen, the thing is there are no saviors out there right now. They're just
on the roster.
No, not available for trade either. I don't see any of these quarterbacks. I mean, unless Indianapolis wants to cut Carson Wentz. If they don't find any takers, I don't know. But
I mean, that's a stretch to call him a savior.
No, but I'm just saying, okay, he's at least a guy that's won more games than Blaine Gabbert has, right? As a quarterback, I'm not opposed to bringing somebody else in to compete with Blaine. Don't give him the reins by any means. But at the same time, you can only do what you can do. You can only control what you can control. If you can't legitimately get another quarterback, this is an awful quarterback class. Then maybe it's time to just go with Gabbert, move Trask up to number 2. I'm a big believer that if you like Kyle Trask, if you think he's the future, maybe not the now, but the future, he's got to be at the number 2 quarterback spot. You got to put him up there and get him the reps so he can develop. He was the number 4th quarterback on the depth chart last year. And I mean, he did some physical developmental stuff behind the scenes, but he did not get the reps and the work that you would like to think if you're starting to put him into there. The problem is with Jimmy G is going to want to get paid over $20 million. He's a mediocre quarterback. Yeah. Is he better than Blaine Gabbert? Yes, but I'd rather have Blaine at $4 or $5 million than Jimmy G at 20 or 25, whatever he's making.
25 this year. I think you have to trade for. The problem is a lot of Bucs fans, I think, are having a hard time. Not all of you guys, because a lot of you guys are very smart, smarter than me, some of you. But I think a lot of the one of the biggest problems some of these Bucs fans are having a hard time grasping is, well, why can't we just do what we did in 2020? Well, the biggest reason is because Tom Brady was
they didn't trade for him.
He was a free agent. First of all, you didn't have to trade for him. Exactly. Right. You didn't have to give anything up. And now that's why this is such a big different story and why we're asking this question in this pod.
Yeah.
How does it change this Bucs offseason? Because now you have three giant holes in the interior of your offensive line. You've got some really solid bookends, and I think those are two of the most important positions on the line. Right. You've got an all-pro, and in my mind, should have been a Pro Bowler this year, Donovan Smith. Yeah. But, those options, those trading, let's trade a first round, let's trade multiple first, let's trade a first, second. Those kind of go out the window. You just don't have the draft capital when you have to fill all these holes.
Right. So you're trading away other potential starters or at least players for a quarterback. And if you're going to do that, he better be phenomenal, right?
He better be able to run his ass off too.
Exactly. So listen, folks, just so we're clear, okay? And, we have a little disclaimer we like to run when we're talking about Blaine Gabbert, because we don't necessarily endorse the idea of Blaine Gabbert being the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Undefeated, though.
We're not forcing that down your throats, folks, okay? We're only reporting on the potential likelihood of Gabbert being the best option, not the best quarterback, but the best option, big difference, at quarterback for the Bucs in 2022, given his 4 years of experience in Bruce Arians' offense, okay? We do not represent Blaine Gabbert, nor are we employed by Blaine Gabbert, right? And no, Blaine did not slip me a 20 to say nice things about him.
Slipped him a 50.
No money. Okay, so I'm just saying that's our disclaimer, right? We have to kind of put that out there from time to time, just so everyone's on the same page. And speaking of the same page, if you found us here on our YouTube channel, or if you're watching us on social media, on Facebook or Twitter, make sure that you are going to our Pewter Report TV channel on YouTube and hitting the like button for this video and the other videos we do. If you miss a podcast, the great thing is all of our podcasts are up there. You can watch them at your leisure, and make sure you go to Pewter Report TV on YouTube and subscribe to that and hit the like button. It helps our algorithm, helps more Buccaneer fans find us. And again, tomorrow, just so you know, we're going to have live coverage from the Combine. John Ledyard and Matt Matera are going to be there live tomorrow at Indy at the Convention Center. And that's where Bruce Arians and Jason Light will be speaking to the media. So they're going to be speaking. You'll probably see a couple minutes of those interviews on either Buccaneers.com or live on NFL Network.
And then we'll write about them on Pewter Report. So come to our site and read the stories we write about them. So
no doubt. But the thing is those two gentlemen will also be giving additional, more targeted to Tampa Bay interviews with local media, right? So John and Matt will be up there. They're going to have all of the analysis of Jason Light and Bruce Arians tomorrow on the Pewter Report podcast at 4:00 Eastern time. So make sure that you are around for that. So it's weird that a guard can change what a franchise is going to do with his departure, but this is just kind of the latest of the snowball rolling downhill for the Buccaneers, right? It's not just Ali Marpet, but the fact that it's Marpet now after Tom Brady, probably Jensen, probably Gronkowski, probably Sue, right? That's kind of why we're thinking that this is going to force the reboot in Tampa, right, JC?
Right. Oh, exactly. And there are some options in free agency if they wanted to go that way. If they can't bring Cappa back, they can't bring Jensen back. They can't bring, obviously Marpet's.
Who are some of those options, JC? Let's start talking about that. John Ledyard had a couple of names up there on pewterreport.com earlier today. What did you think about those names, and who else do you like?
Well, I did like Andrew Norwell from Jacksonville. Is a guy that I kind of looked at early on when Cappa was projected to be gone. Just looking throughout the guard, because let me tell you guys, the cupboard is bare at guard, and Andrew Norwell is one of the best out there who's not going to kill you salary cap wise. Brandon Sheriff, we all already know from the Commanders, whatever they're called.
Commodores.
He's Commodores, yeah. Easy like Sunday morning.
Easy like Sunday morning.
He's going to cost you, PFF's got him at $16.6 million a year over 3 years. So he's going to, he just got franchise tagged twice. He's going to reset the market at guard.
Yeah.
You got guys like Laken Tomlinson from the Niners, who has been a really good guard and, can play in any scheme. And, last year he posted a 73.6 grade. 13th best guard in the league at 82 per PFF. He's averaging 3 years at 27 million. So you're 9 million a year average. And then, you got Cappa too, who's he's projected to go 4 years, 9.25 a year, 37 million. So, you look at those guys, and Andrew Norwell, he's 30 years old. He's 3 years older than Cappa. He's projected right now for 3 years, 7.25. So 2 million less a year than Alex Cappa, 21.75 million overall. Now, his grade last year wasn't the best. He was the 42nd guard, so dead smack in the middle out of all the guard play in the league, with 56.7 grade. But he's not terrible. He's a solid starting guard in this league. He's better as a pass protector than he is in the run game, which is fine because this team is a pass heavy team. His wins above replacement, though, he was a 26th ranked guard. So, that's pretty good. And, the price right there, 7.25 million, is an easier pill to swallow than Alex Cappa's 9.25. So if Cappa does go and gets the money, I think this would be a good guy to look at to plug in and possibly replace Cappa or actually Marpet, because he's a left guard in that lineup.
Yeah, and it's tricky, right? Because free agency, I was talking with John earlier today, and maybe you agree. Is Cappa average? Well, the thing is he's the devil as opposed to the devil you don't know, right? And he's homegrown. You like his toughness. He's a warrior. He knows the system. There's not going to be any transition. Your right side of the line with Wirfs and Cappa is still set. It's one less guy you have to worry about, right? So, in my opinion, I don't think you break the bank for Cappa, but boy, if your line in the sand is, say, $8 million and he's going to end up getting 9 or 9.5, maybe you just say screw it and just give him the extra money, because he's a solid player, right? He's not going to hurt you. You're not going to be disappointed by him. Is it more than you want to pay? Yeah, but there's a pretty good chance, though, that if you're going to be starting, say, Hainsey, either this year or next year at center, right? You got him on your rookie contract, right? So he's what Cappa was, right? A guy on his rookie deal, while you're paying Marpet $12 million a year and Donovan Smith over 13, 14 million, whatever he's making. You have Tristan Wirfs in his rookie deal. So I think at some point you have to have two guys on this offensive line on the rookie deals, right? And if that's Tristan Wirfs and Hainsey, then that's okay, right? If you have to pay your other guards and you've got Donovan Smith as your higher $10+ million free agents, then you do, So, but listen, all of this money is it's making me think about one thing, right? And that's where I'm going to do my investing, right? I've got, some big needs coming up, right? Kids going to college, retirement, et cetera, et cetera. And JC, the place that I've turned to for my investments, the good folks over at Immuni Financial.
At Immuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude, congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you. And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track, so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Immuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
JC, we got to get to Colorado, man, right?
We do. Jensen maybe going to Colorado. Who knows?
Yeah, he wants to. He's from Colorado. He'd love to play for the Broncos. Not sure if he's going there, but listen, folks, managing your family's wealth means more to Immuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. Do what I did. Call for a free obligation or no obligation, risk-free consultation with Immuni Financial, because they're going to talk to you more than just legacy planning and brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, insurance services. It's the one-stop financial shop for your planning needs. With 40 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, let Immuni Financial help you plan ahead so you can stay ahead. Call Immuni Financial. Do what I did. Give them a call, 1-800-868-6864. That's 1-800-868-6864. Or visit them on the web at immuni.com.
Speaking of planning ahead, Scott, I think you kind of really made a strong point there about Robert Hainsey, right? He's on his rookie deal. He's got a 4-year contract as a third-round pick. This is going into his second year. If you're not starting him this year, you have to kind of look, do we start him next year? Do we start him the year after? And that will really go into the fact of what you do at that guard or center position, depending on what position you want him to play at.
Right.
Now, there's a few guys out there at the center position that you could look at in free agency as well. I don't know if you have anything loaded up, but I'm just going to go off the rip here.
I'm gonna name the one guy that I'm going to give fans a little sneak peek. I'm working on my battle plan that'll be coming out next week on pewterreport.com. Bradley Bozeman from Baltimore is the guy that I'm looking at. You can probably get him for 2 or 3 years, maybe $7 million a year. That's about maybe half of what, or a little bit more than half of what Ryan Jensen is going to get in free agency. But you go back to Baltimore where you got Jensen, he's that gap heavy scheme type player that started to really come on this year. There's some interesting parallels between Bozeman and Ryan Jensen, especially from a size standpoint. 6'5", 317. They're kind of built alike. Late round picks. Bozeman played at Alabama, was a 6th round pick in the 2018 draft by Baltimore. So I think you get him as the veteran who's kind of been there and done that. And if Hainsey beats him out, then he does, right? And because it doesn't matter from a salary cap standpoint, it really doesn't. If Hainsey's the better guy, then did you waste that money on Bozeman? Well, maybe you did. But the thing is if Hainsey was the backup and Bozeman was the starter, it's the same amount of salary cap stuff. You have a guy in a rookie deal, and you got a guy you just bought and paid for in free agency.
Right.
And if he elevates the play of Hainsey, and he's your 3rd round pick from last year, who's just a wonderkind at the center position and beats out the veteran that you brought in, so he does, right?
Exactly. And like you said, you mentioned the parallels, and he had the best season of his career last year. He was 11th best center per PFF in the league as a season-long grade. So, I mean, you look at that, and that's one way too, right? Can you get him for a 1-year deal? I don't think so. I think it's going to be a long-term deal. So you're probably, as you said, going to invest $7 million around three years. That's what PFF has him as. If you look, so you've got kind of two options here, right? You've got let's get a 1-year deal done for a veteran center just in case, and you look nowhere else but in the division. He's 32 years old, and he hasn't been the best, but maybe you take a flyer on Paradis. You give him 1 year, cheap money. That's not what I would like to do, to be honest with you. But I mean, if you're looking at somebody, that's just a veteran presence who, if Hainsey really struggles, you throw him in there. And is he going to be as bad as Hainsey? Maybe, if he's going to be better. But there's other two options here too that are tied with those long-term deals. And one of them has been one of the best centers in the league the past couple of years. He's 32 years old now, plays with the Tennessee Titans. His name is Ben Jones, and he's going to cost you. It's going to cost you somewhere around $6.5 million. So 3 years, $6.5 million contract. You're locking him in to be your center for at least the very next 2 years, which, maybe you get Hainsey as your center for the last year, and you move on from Ben Jones, structure his contract that way. Another guy,
or maybe you throw Hainsey into the mix of guard, right? Maybe he's your backup center, but you say, okay, we went out and bought our starting center, and as long as that veteran whoever we bring in, whether it's Jones, whether it's Bozeman, whoever, if he's the guy, then Hainsey's the backup, or to get him on the field, we'll try him at guard and throw him in the mix there.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe you can get this guy. Maybe you can get Jones for 2 years. Maybe you get him on a 2-year deal, and that gives you Hainsey your starting center in year 4. But he's in the guard.
And you're right, but just to stay on your point, though, right? I see what you're saying. Is like okay, you're looking for something maybe short term, just in case Hainsey, and hopefully if Hainsey develops. But keep in mind the way Mike Greenberg structures those contracts, you can get a 5-year contract. but the guaranteed money is going to run out after a year too. So,
absolutely. Right.
So
Exactly.
it gives the team an opt-out essentially, right? With no dead cap space.
Right.
Usually after a year or two. So whether it's a 2-year deal, 3-year deal, 4 or 5-year deal, probably only those first 2 years are going to be guaranteed anyways.
Right. And then another guy who's got some, and Ben Jones got that versatility to play guard. So another guy who's got some versatility and has played guard and center is Ted Karras. Played last year for the Patriots. Probably going to cost you around $13 million over 3 years, $4.5 million. So I mean, that's another guy you could get in there. Now, if you wanted to get really crazy and say, okay, we got Hainsey's going to be our backup center. We've got Leverett. We've got Moultrie, Hutchinson. We feel pretty confident about our guard. Maybe we'll draft a guard on day 2 or day 3. You can go out there and actually spend the same amount of money you're going to spend on a guy like Jensen, a guy like Cappa, and including the savings from Marpet, which is going to be about $5 million. $5 million is going to hit as a prorated bonus once they play some retirement list. $10 million this year, but you're only going to save about $5 million. You can go out there and you can get a guy like Jones or Karras. You can get Norwell, and you can re-sign Stinnie. And for Jones, Norwell, and Stinnie, you're only going to pay $15.92 million a year. Now, that is if you're just going strictly on what they're making. You can restructure those salaries so they're much lower, void years, spread it out. But if you're going on an annual average, it's going to cost you about $16 million for those 3 players. And now you have 3 solid players to fill that interior line if you think Stinnie can be a 17-game player. If you're going to go with a guy like Ted Karras, you're going to be at $13.5 million. If you go with a guy like Paradis, who I know you're not high on, you're going to go at $12.7. So there's a way to remake that entire line. Well, not completely because you're bringing Stinnie back. But there's a way to grab your center, grab your guard out there, and spend less money than you're going to pay, for a Kappa. So they've got to get creative with it. We know Mike Greenberg, Jason Light, and Jack Dillon Davidson are definitely going to do that.
Yes.
And then maybe you look at the draft options too. I mean, there's options in the draft, and no one laid it out better than our guy John Leddy with his first draft with Zion. So I mean, maybe you look there. I don't know, Scott. What do you think? Well, what have you done? What have you looked at on these draft prospects for guards?
Well, it's funny, right? Because John and I, we kind of consult about the mock drafts and all that, and when he was doing this, now keep in mind, John does the NFL first round mock, right? And that sometimes it overlaps, and whoever we end up picking in our Bucs 7-round mock draft at the number 1 spot lands there too. Sometimes he wants to put somebody different. That's fine. As I said last week on the Peter Report podcast, these first couple mock drafts until free agency is over are literally crapshoots because this team has so many holes to fill. We got to see where those holes are filled first in free agency. Then it really are the last 2 mock drafts in April, I think, are going to be a little bit more accurate. Yeah, exactly. The combine.
No idea how these guys are going to test there or anything like that.
Right. I think Christian Watson, the North Dakota State prospect that our staff loves, Casey loves especially, but our staff is very high on. This was a day 3 wide receiver. It's now day 2. And I mean, he could end up being a first round pick, like late first round, if he runs really, really well and tests out of the gym at the combine. So, you don't know. But anyways, as you mentioned, Zion Johnson at Boston College, played some left tackle. He's a natural guard. I think he's a powerful technician. He doesn't have the nasty that I think Jason loves, like a Kappa's got, for example. He's more like a Tristan Wirfs. He's I think Marpet probably even a little bit nastier.
Howdy.
What's that?
Howdy. A long type guy.
Yeah. So at the same time, Tristan Wirfs is a dominant player who doesn't really. He's not the nastiest offensive lineman, right? I think even times Donovan Smith is nastier than Tristan Wirfs, but Tristan just has the ability. It doesn't matter. He'll just beat you from a physical and technique standpoint. But if you're looking for nasty, yeah, exactly. Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. This is another first round guard that could be an option. I'm not sure that Kenyon Green is going to be around by 27, nor am I even that confident that a guy like Zion Johnson will be around by 27, just because those are the 2 top interior guys. I know Tyler Linderbaum is well thought of. He's considered to be a first rounder out of Iowa. He's a pure center. He's undersized. So I'm just not sure, but maybe one of these guys is there by 27. I don't think it was a stretch for John to put him in there. At first I was thinking, guard, what are you talking about? Like that's a little unsexy for the first round. And then he kind of sold me, well, if they don't bring Kappa back and they're losing Jensen, they got to restock the offensive line. I thought, okay, Jason Light loves those offensive linemen. I could see it happen. But boy, was that prophetic, because Ali Marpet retires later in the week on Sunday. So that very well could be.
I'll tell you what, as far as centers go, if Tyler Lindenbaum somehow, which he shouldn't and definitely won't be there, I don't think, at 27, if he doesn't slip to 27, it's not the best class after him.
No, it's not.
I mean, Donovan West is all right from Arizona State, but a third round pick, and
the interesting thing is,
round pick. And
Zion Johnson we did some cross training at the Senior Bowl at the center position, right? And so did Cole Strange from University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, a guy that you like, JC. So that just increases the versatility. He's probably going to be a guard in the NFL, but Cole Strange is a player that's a mid-round pick that has some versatility. Played some center at the Senior Bowl.
Let me tell you something about Cole Strange. I love this guy already. First of all, Chattanooga. Where the heck is Chattanooga? Sounds really small to me. Well, it is. Yeah. It's a small.
I think they're the Moccasins, aren't they?
They are the Mocs. Yeah.
Do I get credit for that? Do I get like a bonus point or two for knowing that?
You definitely get a bonus point there. But let me tell you something about this guy. First of all, he's a small school guy. Screams Jason Light already, but he just plays with the same tenacity and that same after the whistle nasty. You want to talk about a nasty guy? The guy reminds me of Jensen all the way. He's got great athleticism. At the Senior Bowl, he did the same thing Hainsey did. Played mostly guard his entire career. 44 games started at guard. Actually played 2 at left tackle and 1 at center. So he's got plenty of experience at the guard position, and he's showed some versatility. The same way Hainsey did by not really playing center. Hainsey didn't play it at all, but he's been practicing at center this offseason. He's a mauler in the run game, just an absolute mauler, and he's really good in the passing game too. He's got a strong first punch. He's got great balance, good leverage, plays with great awareness. Problem is he struggles. He's 24 years old, so that's one thing that kind of it's an older offensive lineman. He struggles with twitchy rushers, but this guy's got all the tools to become a starting offensive lineman in this league. And, Justin Mello over at the Draft Network, one of my good friends, he does a draft prospect interview with all the hundreds of different guys. It's really amazing. If you're not following him, definitely follow him. He talked to him the other day, and this quote really, I read the interview and I saw this quote, and I was already looking at him for the Bucs, and it made me just be like, yes. He goes, I know for a fact that I'm going to add to the culture of toughness and physicality because I love to play hard. If that's already part of the culture there, I'm just going to add to it. Does that not sound like a Buck to you or what, Scott?
That's the kind of guy that they look for. They look for smart, athletic, big, nasty guys, right? I mean, I know everybody wants that in offensive line move. That's what the Bucs hone in on. Guys that will play in their duo gap scheme. They're in between the tackles, run game, and then this is still. Even though Tom Brady's not going to be the quarterback this year, they're still going to sling the ball around the yard. So you got to be able to pass protect, right? You got to have the wingspan, the ability to play that. And the one thing interesting I'll say about Jason Light is he is known for drafting people that have played left tackle or at least offensive tackle in their college careers and moving them inside. So remember, when he drafted Ali Marpet played left tackle at Hobart College. He didn't play guard really until he got to the Senior Bowl. Same thing with Alex Cappa, left tackle at Humboldt State, played some guard at the Senior Bowl. That's where he ended up being in Tampa Bay, of course. So having said that, one of the guys we have in our Pewter Report 7-round mock draft is a player that's really grown on me, and that's Cordell Volson. He was the right tackle at North Dakota State, but he's also played across the line. He's got most of those reps at right tackle, 752 snaps this past season, but he did play 127 snaps at right guard. So he's moved inside somewhat. Back in 2020, he had 359 snaps at right tackle, 135 at right guard. He played, looks like a game or two at left tackle, so he's got some versatility. And he's a 3-year starter, 962 snaps. Pretty much all of the snaps in 2019 came at the right tackle position. But this guy is a guard. I mean, he played guard at the East-West Shrine Bowl and really impressed me in the game and from some of the practice slips that I saw. And you look at his size, 6'7", 313, very similar from a build standpoint to Alex Cappa. So that's another name to keep an eye on. I think he's going to rise up a little bit too. I'm not sure he's going to blow the doors out of the combine, JC, but it might be a thing where if I was placing a bet on where I think Cordell Volson goes, I think we had him kind of like late day 3. I wouldn't be surprised if Cordell Volson maybe goes to round 4, maybe round 3, but I think probably round 4, I think is where he could go.
Yeah, I mean,
That's if I'm placing a bet, though.
what are the odds on that? I might take it too. But I mean,
I'll tell you where we could go to find out, right? We can go to MyBookie to find out because they're the official betting partner of PewterReport.com.
Yeah.
Listen, what's tomorrow, JC? March 1st, right? What happens in March aside from free agency that sports fans love? March Madness.
I'm a little mad over here.
That's right. So the madness is about to begin. It's time for you to shoot your shot and score big on the nonstop action with MyBookie. Predict winners in each round of the MyBookie bracket contest for a chance to win a Bitcoin, a Doodle NFT, that's non-fungible token, currently valued at over $50,000 and over $100,000 if you like cash, in cash prizes. Whether you're filling out multiple brackets, betting on the national championship winner, or simply looking for player and game props, MyBookie has you covered. Sign up today with MyBookie using the promo code PEWTER to make your first deposit. And also, you're going to earn a free entry into the My Bracket contest. Selections for the bracket will officially begin on March 13th and close on March 17th. So get prepared now. Go ahead and open your account on MyBookie. Use the promo code PEWTER to double your first deposit and get that in. So you can bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie, not just football, JC, but also March Madness.
Perfect. I love me some bracketology. I usually wait till like the last minute, though. I'm the guy like looking up, okay, how do they do this? But I still love filling out the bracket.
Yeah. Well, let's face it, we're a little busy right now with free agency because there's so many holes to fill in this bucket here.
I know. Between free agency, combine, draft work. I mean, the engine never stops over here. John was like, "Oh, we just need some news," and then John asking for he gets it, not the news we wanted, but you got Marpet. And I think you made a really good point too, the fact that Jason Light always looks for tackles. And there's one other guy before we wrap this up that I think, a mid-round guy, currently projected as like a 5th, maybe fringe 4th. It's Thayer Munford at Ohio State. He's a guy who played all of 2020 at left tackle, slid inside to left guard. So now he's got that position versatility. Same thing, just like Cole Strange and just like the guy we just mentioned, Cordell Volson. Yeah. Same height, 6'6", right around there, 320 pounds. So he's a little heavier than either of those guys, but he's got the height, the frame, and the experience. Playing at left tackle and the versatility that the Bucs team love to see. He's a little bit more of a project than either of those two other guys, but if they feel comfortable going with Stinnie and having Hainsey there, and they bring in a guy like Norwell, you can afford to have a guy sit for 1 year while he learns behind.
And that's kind of what they've done with some of their mid to late round offensive linemen, right? Like it took Kevin Pamphel, who was one of Jason Light's first draft picks in 2014, a couple of years to kind of see the field. Same thing with Alex Cappa. He was not a day one starter, right? He transitioned his body from playing left tackle at a small school, putting on weight and size to be able to play guard and hold up inside, which is a completely different position than being on a phone booth out there at left tackle. And same thing with Robert Hainsey, right? I mean, we saw him for maybe 30 snaps last year. I mean, he barely played. And I would have liked to have seen him play more. The Buccaneers just didn't get in that situation enough to where they had enough leads to put him in there. I would have done that more often, though. I honestly would have. Like that Eagles game, I would have put him in there for the last couple of snaps at least, just to get the kid's feet wet. Right. So speaking of news, with some other news, aside from Ali Marpet's sudden retirement, good news if you're a throwback jersey and uniform fan. The Buccaneers did announce that the throwbacks are coming back. It couldn't be done this year because of supply chain issues around the world. But in 2023, you will see Bucco Bruce make a triumphant return Would that be enough to get Tom Brady out of retirement, JC? I don't think so. Brady wanted to play in those throwbacks. It just didn't happen. Maybe that's why he retired. He's like, what? No throwbacks? I'm out of here. I don't know.
Maybe they'll re-image Bucka Bruce's face to Brady's face on there, just as, you know, a tribute. I don't know. Maybe.
Like make it the winking Brady with the
dagger.
In his mouth.
But who would have thought, because of supply chain issues? I mean, I know we've got like the chip issue, right? You can't find new cars really anywhere. The PlayStation and the Xbox and some of these cell phones, like, good luck. But now it's extending to jerseys.
It's like the orange thread. It's the throwback.
That creamsicle color is very popular around the world. You know, I guess,
there's not enough creamsicle thread to make all the jerseys, apparently.
We need more creamsicle.
I know. Exactly. So speaking of overseas and all of that, the Buccaneers will be playing in Germany today. The Buccaneers announced that. That's no surprise. We reported that on PeterReport.com last week. However, I think the opponent's going to be Kansas City. They haven't named that yet, but as one of the 4 teams that are in that Germany international market, that happens to be the team the Buccaneers play this year on the schedule. So I think that is going to be the matchup they're going to go with there. Interesting though, because there's currently a war a couple hundred miles away to, from that. So we'll cross our fingers and hopefully we'll have a game over in Germany this year. Hopefully all of the conflicts around the world are cleared up and over, so we can enjoy some football.
Yeah, hopefully it's in October. Hopefully it's in October. We can all.
That would be great.
Whole PR staff will go over there for October.
It would be the most legit Oktoberfest in Buccaneer history for sure, right? An actual game in Germany, watching Buccaneer football with German beer. It doesn't get better than that, I don't think.
Not much.
So, all right, JC, we did a great job, I think, and summarizing what the team can do to replace Ali Marpet. And we do want you to subscribe to our Peter Report YouTube channel. We call it Peter Report TV. Make sure you hit the like button. Folks, tomorrow, live from Indianapolis, John Lydiard and Matt Matera will be there in Indy, analyzing Jason Licht's and Bruce Arians' press conferences in Indianapolis. Easy for me to say.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you joining us here on the Peter Report podcast. For JC Allen, I'm Scott Reynolds. And those guys are going to have it all week out there in Indy. We'll be back next week to wrap up the combine and figure out what these Buccaneers are going to do at the guard position, at the quarterback position, at the tight end position, running back. So many holes to fill. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to the Peter Report podcast. Out.